Imagine this for a moment. You're standing at the edge of the world, where land dissolves into water. The sea stretches before you dark, endless, and quietly breathing. Its surface glimmers with borrowed light from the moon, but beneath that shimmer lies a world that almost no one has ever truly seen. The ocean covers more than 70% of Earth, and yet we've explored less than a tiny fraction of it. What waits below isn't just water, it's history, mystery, and the heartbeat of a living planet that still keeps its secrets. Hey guys, tonight we're not climbing mountains or gazing at distant stars. We're diving into the deep, down past the coral reefs below the twilight zone, into the silent abyss where sunlight never reaches. The deep sea is our last great frontier, not in space, but here on Earth, beneath our very feet. And as we descend together, I'd like to invite you to slow down. Let your breath follow the rhythm of the tides. Feel the day fade behind you. The world above can wait for a while. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It helps more sleepy souls find their way to these calm journeys through science and wonder. And if you'd like, share your location and local time. Down in the comments, I love seeing where in the world you're listening from tonight. Now, if you're ready, let's begin. The descent starts softly. At first, there's still color, the turquoise shimmer of sunlight touching waves, the darting silhouettes of fish. You can almost feel the warmth of the upper ocean, alive with motion and sound. But as you drift deeper, that warmth fades. The blue darkens to indigo, then to velvet black. Each meter takes you farther from the world you know, until even sound feels muted, absorbed by the vastness. Your heartbeat becomes the loudest thing you hear. Here, pressure builds 1 atmosphere for every 10 meters you descend. By 1,000 meters, the weight pressing on every square inch of your body equals the force of a car balanced on your thumbnail. And yet, life endures here. It has for millions of years. Creatures built of translucent skin, slow muscles, and perfect adaptations drift through the dark like living dreams. Their bones, if they have any, are soft. Their hearts beat slowly. Their blood carries oxygen differently, so they can survive in a world without sunlight or surface air. You might think of space as the final frontier, but in many ways, the deep sea is stranger. We've sent more humans into orbit than we've sent to the deepest parts of our own ocean. And unlike space, the sea hides its secrets beneath a constantly shifting mirror. No telescope can peer through the water's skin. Only sound, light, and courage can. Every expedition down there feels like time travel, a return to Earth before humans, before sunlight touched the planet's surface. Even now, the deep sea moves to rhythms we barely understand. Massive currents flow like invisible rivers, carrying nutrients, heat, and life through the planet's veins. Some of these flows are thousands of miles long, connecting polar ice to tropical coasts, linking every ocean together into a single breathing system. The ocean, in its deepest silence, shapes our climate, our air, even the color of our sky. And yet, for all our technology, we still know almost nothing. The deep sea remains the least mapped, least understood environment on Earth. Entire mountain ranges stretch beneath the waves, taller than Everest, yet uncharted. There are valleys deeper than the Grand Canyon, and creatures that have never been named by science. We've seen glowing orbs drift past cameras, jelly-like beings that shimmer and vanish, mechanical lights catching shapes that seem alive and impossible. Sometimes, researchers don't even know whether they're seeing an animal, a reflection, or a phenomenon of light itself. To drift through that darkness is to feel small, but not in a frightening way. It's the kind of smallness that reminds you the world is vast and beautiful, beyond comprehension. The kind that humbles the mind and soothes it at the same time. Down here, time moves differently. Sound travels faster, but thoughts seem slower. Every motion feels deliberate, every breath drawn with quiet reverence. Some say the deep sea is like a mirror of the subconscious. Its black depths reflect the parts of us we rarely explore, the hidden thoughts, the quiet fears, the unspoken hopes. Maybe that's why it fascinates us. It's not just a physical place, but a psychological one. A world both real and symbolic, where light and darkness exist in perfect balance. You can almost imagine ancient sailors staring into these waters, wondering what lived below. They told stories of monsters and gods, of serpents that swallowed ships whole, of glowing ghosts that haunted the deep. And though we now have science instead of superstition, the feeling remains the same. Curiosity mixed with awe, fear mixed with longing. The sea still speaks to something ancient in us, the desire to understand what we cannot see. And so we explore. With sonar, submersibles, and cameras built to withstand crushing pressure, we descend inch by inch into the unknown. Each dive brings back fragments, images, sounds, samples, but never the full picture. The ocean reveals only what it chooses. It's as if it knows that mystery is part of its magic. Maybe that's why, even after centuries of study, we keep returning. Because somewhere below the waves, we sense that the ocean isn't just another ecosystem, it's the beating heart of the planet, a place where life began and where it continues to dream. As you listen now, imagine yourself sinking slowly, gently through that blue-black water. Feel the world above grow distant. Let your thoughts drift like plankton in the current. Out there, in the vast silence, you are part of something immense and ancient. The sea doesn't ask questions, it only listens. So breathe in, let go, and remember sometimes the greatest mysteries aren't out among the stars. They're waiting quietly beneath the waves. The sunlight fades quickly as we descend. Within just a few hundred meters, its golden shimmer becomes a soft blue haze, then a dim glow, and finally, nothing at all. You enter a world that no longer belongs to the day. Down here, light does not exist, not the kind our eyes were made for. This is the twilight zone, a realm where the boundary between night and day disappears completely. The ocean above still dances with light and color, but here everything changes. Shapes blur. Colors fade into grays and blues, then dissolve into shadow. The human eye becomes nearly useless, and the familiar rules of the surface, vision, warmth, direction begin to crumble. If you could float here long enough, you'd see the last ghostly traces of sunlight shimmer out, and darkness wrap around you like a living thing. The water cools sharply as you descend, until it feels ancient cold, not just from temperature, but from time. It's the same water that's been circulating for centuries, sinking in the polar regions and drifting across the globe before rising again. It carries whispers of distant storms, traces of volcanoes, and even particles of cosmic dust that settled into the ocean long ago. Every drop here is a memory of Earth's history, condensed into liquid silence. Scientists call this vast layer the Mesopelagic Zone, the Middle Ocean. It stretches from about 200 meters down to 1,000. It's the largest habitat on Earth, larger than all forests, deserts, and plains combined, and yet it remains mostly unseen. Billions of creatures live here, forming what's known as the Deep Scattering Layer, a mysterious band that appears on sonar like a moving false seabed. It rises at night and sinks by day, as if the ocean itself were breathing in darkness. Among the drifting shadows, strange lives unfold. Transparent fish with mirror-like scales glide silently. Tiny shrimp flash brief sparks of light, sending coded signals through the blackness. Some species migrate hundreds of meters upward each night to feed, then retreat back into the safety of darkness before dawn. It's the greatest migration on the planet, one that happens not across continents, but up and down every single day. Down here, every creature has learned to live without the Sunday. Instead of light, they follow faint traces of chemistry. They sense pressure, vibration, and the electric whispers of nearby bodies. Their eyes are enormous, designed to catch even a single photon. Some have lost their eyes entirely, evolving other ways to see by touch, scent, or sound. Evolution has turned necessity into artistry. A hatchetfish, for instance, glows faintly on its belly, matching the pale blue light filtering from above so predators below can't see its shadow. Lanternfish emit glimmers to communicate or confuse. The gulper eel stretches its mouth wide enough to swallow prey twice its size. To us, they may look alien, but in truth, we are the strange ones, the surface dwellers who cannot see in the dark. Imagine floating there, suspended between layers of water, your body weightless, your breath slow. Around you, tiny lights flicker blue, green, white, sometimes red, colors so pure they seem not to belong to the physical world. Each flash is a signal, a warning, a call for a mate, or a momentary disguise. It's a galaxy beneath the sea, with living stars instead of distant suns. And yet, despite this quiet beauty, danger lurks everywhere. In the absence of light, predators rely on patience and pressure. They wait motionless, sometimes for days, for a vibration in the water, a faint pulse that betrays the movement of prey. A single flick of a fin could mean survival or death. Down here, every heartbeat is a whisper in a world that listens closely. The silence isn't empty, though. If you could hear the sounds of this darkness, you'd find an orchestra of life. Low rumbles from distant whales, crackling from shrimp colonies. The occasional metallic groan of tectonic plates shifting far below. These sounds travel for miles, curving along the water's density layers, weaving stories between continents. The ocean, even in its blackest depths, is never truly still. And there's something else, something deeper than the physical. This absence of sunlight doesn't feel like loss, it feels like peace. The surface burns with light, speed, and noise. But here, in eternal night, time slows. You can sense the rhythm of existence itself, steady, patient, and ancient. Every creature, every current, every drifting particle moves to the same quiet tempo, the pulse of a planet, older than memory. It's easy to forget that all life once began in darkness. Before there were skies or trees, before fire or eyes or even thought, there was only the sea and the long, endless night. So perhaps, as you imagine yourself drifting through this shadowed realm, you are not just exploring the ocean, but returning home, to where life began, to where the world first learned how to breathe. Let yourself sink a little deeper. Let the last threads of daylight slip away. The darkness will hold you, not harm you, because down here, in the world without sunlight, there is still warmth, still life, and still wonder waiting quietly to be seen. The deeper you go, the more the sea begins to press against you. It's an invisible weight, quiet, patient, absolute. At just a few hundred meters below the surface, the pressure is already dozens of times greater than what you feel on land. By the time you reach 1,000 meters, it could crush a human body in an instant. And yet, this same force that destroys also sustains. It's part of the balance that keeps the deep ocean alive, shaping everything within it. Pressure down here isn't just a number. It's a presence, a constant companion. Imagine being surrounded by tons of water, pressing from every direction, up, down, sideways, all at once. There's no escape, no direction that feels lighter. It's a total embrace, a silence so dense that even your thoughts seem to slow beneath it. Scientists say it's like living inside a planet's heartbeat, feeling the pulse of gravity and water intertwined. Most life on the surface could never survive this. A whale can dive for hours, but even it must eventually return to breathe. A human submarine must be built of thick titanium, reinforced like a fortress, or it will fold under the crushing weight. But deep-sea creatures, they were born here. Their bodies are made not to resist pressure, but to live with it, to flow with it, as if it were simply another form of gravity. The gelatinous creatures that drift through these depths are almost ethereal. Their bodies contain no air pockets, no rigid structures to break or collapse. They're soft, flexible, and perfectly balanced. Some are 95% water, translucent ghosts that drift through the black-like fragments of moonlight. Others, like the snailfish found in the Mariana Trench, have internal chemistry so finely tuned that their cells resist being crushed even under 16,000 pounds of pressure per square inch. Think about that. Every square inch of a snailfish's body bears more weight than a stack of 50 cars, and yet it moves with grace, effortless and calm. It doesn't fight the pressure, it becomes part of it. The silence that would destroy us is, to it, home. Even the sounds change under such force. The deeper you go, the faster sound travels, and the quieter the world feels. Noise from the surface fades until all that remains are distant vibrations, the hum of the planet, the song of the deep. Submersible microphones have captured eerie, low rumbles that seem to come from nowhere, sometimes echoing for minutes before fading into the dark. No one knows what causes them: tectonic movements, whales, or perhaps something else entirely. In the deep ocean, sound doesn't travel the way we expect. It bends and stretches, carrying secrets through the cold like whispers between worlds. Pressure shapes everything here: the temperature, the density, even the way light behaves. When explorers send cameras down, their lights scatter strangely, as though the water itself bends time. Objects appear closer, then vanish. Colors distort. What's real becomes uncertain, like a dream you half remember. It's a world where physics and imagination begin to blur. And yet, in this alien darkness, life thrives. Tube worms cluster around vents that spew water as hot as molten metal, their red plumes fluttering like flags in the current. Giant amphipods, shrimp-like creatures, the size of a human hand, crawl across the sediment, unbothered by the crushing tons above them. Even microbes survive inside rock, feeding on minerals and heat, defying everything we thought life needed. Pressure is not their enemy, it's their sculptor. It shapes their forms, their metabolism, even their behavior. Where we see danger, the deep sees design. It reminds us that what feels unbearable can, in time, become natural. Life adapts, transforms, and endures, quietly rewriting the rules we thought unbreakable. If you were to sink here in silence, you might feel the weight of it all, the entire ocean, pressing softly against your chest. But it's not suffocating, it's grounding. It's as if the sea is holding you still, reminding you how small you are and how vast everything else can be. In that stillness, fear dissolves. All that remains is awe. For centuries, humans feared this pressure, believing the deep sea to be lifeless, a realm of eternal night. But when technology finally broke through the surface, we discovered something extraordinary. Cameras revealed not emptiness, but abundance. Life not in spite of pressure, but because of it. The deep sea doesn't reject the laws of nature, it redefines them. Perhaps that's why we're drawn to it. Because it mirrors the quiet truths we sense within ourselves. The more life presses against us, the more the world demands. The heavier the weight we carry, the deeper we learn to adapt. We become quieter, more resilient. Like the creatures of the abyss, we learn to survive, not by resisting, but by becoming one with what surrounds us. So breathe slowly. Let the silence settle around you. You are deep now, miles below the surface where sunlight never touches, and the weight of the world feels both infinite and kind. Down here, there is no rush, no sound of cities, no ticking clocks, only the slow pulse of the earth itself, pressing softly against your heart. Long before the first mountain lifted its head toward the sky, the oceans were already here, vast, deep, and ancient. They were Earth's first mirror, reflecting the glow of a newborn Sunday. Every ripple, every wave you see today, carries within it the memory of a time when the continents were still drifting like dreams beneath the stars. The sea is not just a body of water. It is the planet's oldest storyteller. If you could peel back the layers of time, you'd see that the ocean has existed for more than 4 billion years, nearly as long as Earth itself. When the planet was still molten and hostile, it was the ocean that calmed it. Steam from volcanoes condensed into rain, falling for millions of years until it filled the first basins. Imagine that sound, the first rainfall on a silent world, the beginning of the planet's heartbeat. Those waters, ancient and unbroken, are still here today. The same drops that cooled the earth now move through clouds, rivers and tides. When you touch the sea, you are touching the oldest element of home. The mountains we admire on the surface are young in comparison. Even the Himalayas, towering and proud, are infants beside the sea. They rise, crumble, and rise again with the restless shifting of the continents, but the oceans endure. The ocean floor may change shape, subduct, and reform, yet the waters themselves remain, flowing endlessly from age to age. Beneath their calm surface lies a record older than stone, a memory written in salt, pressure, and life. Scientists can read this memory like pages in an invisible book, traces of ancient oxygen, carbon, and microscopic shells buried in deep-sea sediments tell the story of Earth's past climates. Every layer reveals a chapter, ages of ice and fire, of flourishing life and silent extinctions. The ocean remembers everything, it never forgets. Even the sound of meteor impacts and volcanic storms still echo faintly through its chemistry. There's poetry in that idea, isn't there? That the waves we hear tonight have whispered over the bones of dinosaurs, over the coral cities of long-vanished seas, and over the first fragile cells that ever breathed. Life didn't begin on land. It began here, in these depths, in the cradle of salt and mineral and darkness. The ocean was the first womb, and every living thing carries its signature still. In our blood, there is salt in the same ratio as seawater. When we cry, our tears are echoes of the ancient tides. The ocean doesn't just surround us, it flows within us. Over billions of years, the ocean has sculpted the face of the world. It carved cliffs and islands, buried mountains, and shaped the continents through currents and storms. It feeds the rain that fills our rivers. It regulates our air, our weather, even our seasons. Without the ocean's rhythm, Earth would be silent and still a planet without breath. The sea gives us not only life, but time itself, setting the tempo by which everything moves. Yet, for all its age and power, the ocean is humble. It hides its miracles beneath a quiet surface, never boasting, never revealing all. It holds secrets that predate language and will outlast civilization. Somewhere in the abyssal plains, beyond reach of sunlight or sound, lie the relics of Earth's beginning minerals forged in the planet's infancy, life forms unchanged for eons, and perhaps, still, some unseen spark that reminds us where we came from. When explorers collect samples from deep-sea vents, they sometimes find microbes that have remained the same for hundreds of millions of years. Their ancestors witnessed the birth of continents. They thrived in darkness, before eyes existed, before plants drew breath, before color had meaning. To meet them is to shake hands with the dawn of life itself. The oceans are older than memory, but not immune to change. Tides rise and fall as the moon pulls gently on Earth's skin. Currents shift, temperatures drift. And yet, in this endless movement, there's constancy, a rhythm that has never failed since the first day water touched rock. When you stand by the shore and listen to the waves, you're hearing a sound older than any human voice, a song that began before we had ears to hear it. Sometimes, at night, if you close your eyes and listen closely, you can almost feel that age, the slow, patient pulse of something eternal. It humbles you, doesn't it? To realize that the world beneath your feet is billions of years in the making, that long before names, nations, and stories, there was only this: wind, water, and silence. And still, the sea moves. Still it breathes. Still it waits, carrying the memory of everything that ever was and everything that will be. So, as you listen to this quiet story tonight, remember, when you gaze into the dark water, you're not looking into emptiness. You're looking into time itself. The ocean isn't just older than the mountains. It's older than fear, older than light, older than the idea of beginning. And in its patient depths, it keeps a truth that even the stars might envy. It has always been here, and it always will be. Far below the restless shimmer of the waves, beyond the last flicker of sunlight and the final drift of twilight, lies a world few have seen: the abyssal plain. It is the quietest and flattest place on earth, a shadowed desert that stretches for miles beneath the ocean, calm and still as eternity itself. If mountains are the bones of the land, the abyssal plain is its heartbeat, slow, patient, and almost imperceptible, yet steady through time. This realm begins around 4,000 meters below the surface, where pressure is immense and temperature hovers just above freezing. It is a place without seasons, without storms, and without the light of day. The horizon disappears into blackness, a landscape of silt and silence, where the only movements are the slow settling of dust and the soft drift of marine snow, tiny fragments of life falling endlessly from above. Marine snow sounds poetic, and in a way it is. Every flake is a whisper from the surface world, a piece of plankton, a speck of calcium, the faint remains of a drifting jellyfish or a leaf of seaweed carried from distant shores. Together, they fall like ghostly snowflakes, feeding the creatures below. It is an eternal snowfall of death and renewal, the slow heartbeat of the ocean's cycle. If you could drift down through this darkness, you would eventually see faint shapes emerge from the black, strange ridges, trenches, and plains as vast as continents. There are no trees or coral reefs here, only smooth, endless sediment formed over millions of years by the slow rain of time. The ocean floor is not barren, though it is alive in ways subtle and mysterious. Tiny, brittle stars wave their arms through the silt, catching bits of food carried by invisible currents. Sea cucumbers crawl like ghosts across the sediment, leaving delicate trails behind them. Some glow faintly, their light a pale blue shimmer in the endless night. Worms, with transparent bodies, dig through the mud, recycling nutrients grain by grain. Life here is slow, deliberate, and beautifully patient. Nothing hurries, nothing wastes energy. In the abyss, every movement matters. And then, sometimes, the silence breaks. A shadow passes overhead, a whale carcass, sinking slowly after death, its massive body falling like a meteor through the sea. When it finally lands on the plain, life blooms around it. Scavengers arrive within hours: sharks, hagfish, amphipods tearing and feeding, recycling the whale into the ecosystem. Later, bacteria and worms take over, transforming the bones into miniature reefs that can last for decades. Even death, in the deep sea, becomes creation. This quiet balance between stillness and renewal defines the abyss. It's a reminder that even in the coldest, most desolate places, the machinery of life never stops turning. No sunlight reaches these plains, yet energy from the surface flows down, particle by particle, ensuring that life endures. It's as if the planet itself has learned to dream in darkness. The seafloor beneath you is not solid in the way we imagine land to be. Beneath the fine dust of sediment lies the oceanic crust, a mosaic of volcanic rock spreading slowly outward from the mid-ocean ridges. It moves just a few centimeters each year, yet, over millions of years, it reshapes the world. This slow drift is what pushes continents apart, raises islands, and opens trenches deep enough to swallow mountains whole. In this slow-motion dance, the abyssal plain is both a graveyard and a nursery. The remains of ancient creatures rest beside newborn volcanic formations, life and death layered together in silence. When researchers take sediment cores from the deep sea, they find microfossils dating back tens of millions of years, tiny shells, invisible to the naked eye, that record the rhythm of Earth's climate through ages of ice and fire. Imagine holding one of those grains of dust. Within it lies a story older than humanity itself, a diary of temperature, chemistry, and motion written by the planet's own hand. Down here, time moves differently. A century is nothing. A million years is a single sigh. And yet, even in this timeless stillness, something stirs. Occasionally, seismic waves ripple through the plain echoes of earthquakes thousands of miles away. Volcanic vents open, releasing jets of hot minerals that swirl briefly before cooling into black smoke. And in those fleeting moments, the abyss breathes. Some explorers describe the abyssal plain as the ocean's memory. It holds the record of everything that has ever fallen from above, the remains of civilizations, shipwrecks, meteor fragments, even tiny bits of plastic from the modern world. The deep never forgets. It gathers, layer by layer, all that we leave behind. But there's a strange comfort in that thought. The deep doesn't judge, it simply preserves. In the endless quiet, it keeps watch over the fragile story of our planet. Each grain of silt, each whisper of falling snow, adds another page to the chronicle of life. So, as you picture this vast plain beneath miles of water, imagine it not as emptiness, but as a sacred library, one that stretches across the entire world, written in the language of sediment and silence. Every creature that has ever lived contributes a word, a trace, a shadow. And somewhere, far below the reach of sunlight, the story continues to grow, line by patient line. Breathe deeply. Feel that stillness. Let it settle around you like the soft weight of the ocean itself. You are standing, in your mind, on the floor of the world where time sleeps and the sea dreams without end. When most people think of volcanoes, they imagine fire and smoke rising from the land, lava spilling down blackened slopes into glowing rivers of heat. But the greatest volcanoes on Earth are not found on continents or islands. They are hidden far beneath the sea, where fire meets water in a world of silence and shadow. The ocean floor, vast and ancient, is alive with mountains of flame we cannot see. There are more than 1 million submarine volcanoes scattered across the planet's seafloor, some towering taller than Mount Everest, yet buried under miles of water. These fiery giants build ridges, shape islands, and breathe heat into the abyssal dark. Most of them will never erupt into the open air, never glow red in the night sky. Their eruptions happen unseen, muffled by the weight of the ocean, and yet they have shaped the world we know more than any volcano on land ever could. Down here, molten rock does not roar, it sighs. When lava meets seawater, it cools instantly, forming strange, rounded shapes called pillow lavas, smooth stone bubbles that pile up to create new ocean crust. These silent eruptions are so gentle, so slow, that entire mountains can rise unnoticed over centuries. It's a kind of creation that doesn't seek attention, only endurance. But sometimes, the sea cannot hide its fire. Deep within the mid-ocean ridges, vast cracks that circle the planet like seams in a shell magma pushes upward, splitting the Earth's crust. The ridges stretch for more than 60,000 kilometers, the longest mountain chain in the world, yet almost entirely submerged. Here, the planet's heart beats quietly, releasing heat that drives currents, chemistry, and life itself. At the sites of these volcanic ridges, hydrothermal vents form towering chimneys that spew black smoke into the dark. The smoke is not soot, but mineral-rich water heated by magma below. It bursts out of the seafloor at temperatures hot enough to melt metal, yet surrounded by water near freezing. When the two mix, minerals crystallize, building spires that rise like cathedrals from the abyss. And around those cathedrals of smoke, life gathers. Imagine standing there, if you could, surrounded by eternal darkness. Then, in the distance, you see a faint glow, a ghostly shimmer, as if stars have bloomed on the ocean floor. As you drift closer, the scene unfolds. Pale crabs crawling across chimneys, fields of tube worms waving scarlet plumes, shrimp with transparent bodies clustering in the shimmering heat. It feels otherworldly, alien, and yet this is home for them. These creatures live not from sunlight, but from chemistry. They draw energy from the minerals pouring out of the vents, iron, sulfur, methane, transforming poison into life. Scientists call it chemosynthesis, and it's one of the most profound discoveries of the last century. It showed us that life doesn't need sunlight at all. It can thrive wherever there is energy, even in the blackest corners of the world. It's humbling, isn't it? To realize that the origin of life itself might have begun here around vents like these, billions of years ago, when the oceans were young and the sky was still full of fire. Here, in the fusion of heat and water, simple molecules joined to form the first whispers of life. Even now, those same reactions continue, quietly, in the deep. The vents don't last forever. They flare for decades, then fade as magma shifts below. When they die, their towers collapse, scattering mineral dust like ashes across the plain. But the cycle always renews. New vents rise elsewhere, and life follows, migrating like a tide across the seafloor. Creation, decay, and rebirth again and again, without witness. We rarely think of volcanoes as peaceful, but down here they are. They work in silence, sculpting new crust, feeding new life, balancing the planet's chemistry. Their heat drives the currents that circulate through the deep ocean, linking every sea into one living system. Every wave that touches the shore begins, in some small way, with the fire below. And yet, for all our satellites and sensors, we've seen only a handful of these volcanoes erupt. When they do, the sight is surreal. Cameras have captured glowing plumes of lava bursting through the darkness, surrounded by clouds of boiling water and glassy fragments drifting like snow. The explosions are muffled, graceful, almost slow, as if the ocean itself is cradling the planet's anger in its arms. To witness that moment is to feel the pulse of creation, Earth reshaping itself, unseen, unhurried, unconcerned with whether anyone is watching. Down here, time moves in geologic heartbeats, and every eruption is another breath of the planet. Next time you look at the sea, try to imagine it not as a still surface, but as a thin skin over something alive. Beneath it, continents are born and destroyed. Mountains rise, crumble, and rise again. Volcanoes bloom like slow, fiery flowers in the dark, keeping the Earth's story in motion. And in that darkness, amid all the pressure and silence, life continues quietly glowing, endlessly adapting, eternally new. The sea hides its fire well, but it never goes out. Beneath the calmest waters, the world is still burning, patiently, beautifully, creating the future one eruption at a time. If you imagine the deep ocean as empty and barren, imagine again. Beneath the miles of pressure and silence, forests grow not of trees or leaves, but of coral, sponges, and life unlike anything on the surface. They rise slowly from the sea floor, like ancient cities carved from bone and glass. Each branch, each tendril, each curve of living stone tells a story that began long before we arrived. These are the hidden forests of the deep, where coral reefs thrive in total darkness. Unlike the bright, tropical reefs near the surface that depend on sunlight, these deep-water corals live by catching whatever the ocean gives them. Tiny flakes of marine snow, drifting plankton, and particles of organic matter that fall through the water column like the ashes of the world above. Some of these coral forests are thousands of years old. Their skeletons, made of limestone and protein, grow millimeter by millimeter, decade by decade, building towers that can stretch tens of meters high. Red, white, gold, and pink corals intertwine, forming cathedrals of life where strange creatures hide and hunt. These forests are not loud, not colorful in daylight, but in their stillness, they hold more grace than any forest of the land. When explorers first sent cameras into these depths, what they saw seemed impossible. Vast meadows of soft corals swaying like fields of wheat in an invisible current. Sponges the size of cars, shaped like vases, tubes, and chimneys. Tiny fish darting between them, flashing with faint light. And around the coral pillars, clouds of brittle stars, sea lilies, and crustaceans moving like wind across branches of stone. Here, there is no sunlight, yet beauty persists. Life finds ways to bloom even in the coldest dark. Corals extend their feathery arms into the current, catching invisible food drifting by. Their rhythm is unhurried, patient, meditative. They open and close in time with the sea's slow breathing, like monks in silent prayer. The deep-sea coral forests are ancient sanctuaries, some older than human civilization itself. Scientists have discovered coral colonies that have been growing for more than 4,000 years, older than the pyramids of Egypt, older than written language. Imagine that, a living organism quietly building, growing, and enduring through every age of humanity, unseen beneath the waves. But even here, far from the reach of light, traces of the surface world arrive. Bits of plastic, threads of fiber, invisible chemicals all drift down eventually, finding their way to the deep. Some corals have begun to grow around them, encasing fragments of our civilization into their skeletons, turning pollution into part of their story. The ocean never rejects it, transforms. Each coral branch, each sponge structure is a home. Thousands of species depend on these forests. Tiny shrimp, translucent as glass, hide among the coral arms. Fish with luminous eyes hover motionless, blending into the shadows. Crabs scuttle across the branches, like travelers through narrow paths. And in the hollows of the coral, strange creatures sleep worms with jewel-like heads, sea spiders that move like lace in motion. To wander through this underwater forest is to move through time itself. Every inch of it is built from layers of memory, life upon life, death upon death, the architecture of patience. When one coral dies, another grows on top of it, and another after that, forming a structure hundreds of feet tall. It is a slow resurrection, one that happens not once, but forever. The ocean's currents carry whispers through these forests, sounds we cannot hear but that the creatures can feel. Vibrations of approaching predators, distant volcanic tremors, or the faint rumble of ships passing miles above. The corals sway to those unheard songs, and the sponges filter the water, cleansing it, keeping the balance. To scientists, these reefs are treasure vaults of biodiversity. To the sea, they are lungs. They breathe slowly, exchanging nutrients and oxygen, balancing life across the ocean's depths. And to those who dream of stillness, they are temples, a reminder that even in darkness, creation never sleeps. But they are fragile too. A single trawling net can destroy what took millennia to build. A careless anchor, a burst of heat, a shift in acidity, any of these can collapse a cathedral that has stood since before humans knew the deep existed. Once broken, it will take centuries to heal, if it ever does. And yet, even knowing that, the ocean remains generous. It keeps creating, quietly and endlessly. Every new coral polyp that anchors itself to a rock, every sponge that filters a current, is a small act of hope, a soft reminder that life does not give up. If you close your eyes now and imagine yourself drifting among these silent towers, you might feel the same peace that scientists describe when they first saw them. A vast, breathing stillness. A beauty that doesn't need to be seen to exist. The kind of wonder that humbles you, not because it is loud, but because it is eternal. In these hidden forests, where water replaces air and time replaces sunlight, life continues its slow, graceful dance. And perhaps, if the sea has a soul, it breathes here in the quiet rhythm of coral and current, in the patience of life that never stops growing, even when no one is watching. Deep below the ocean's surface, where sunlight has never reached, light is not gone. It is reborn. In this world of black water and endless night, thousands of species create their own illumination. Tiny points of blue, green, and violet shimmer through the dark like stars scattered across a cosmic sea. They drift, flicker, pulse, and fade, as if the deep itself is breathing in light. This is the realm of bioluminescence, where life writes poetry in photons. Here, creatures do not wait for the sun, they become the sun, crafting light from within their own bodies. Through chemistry and evolution, they have learned to summon brilliance in a world that knows only shadow. The principle is simple but miraculous. Inside their tissues, these creatures mix two chemicals, luciferin, which produces light, and luciferase, an enzyme that makes the reaction possible. When oxygen meets this pair, energy is released as a soft, glowing radiance. No heat, no flame, just cold, living light, delicate enough to soothe, powerful enough to be seen hundreds of meters away. For the animals of the deep, light is everything. It's a language, a weapon, a disguise. Some flash bright bursts to startle predators. Others glow faintly to attract prey. There are fish that hang luminous lures in front of their mouths like lanterns, waiting for curiosity to bring dinner close. Jellyfish send ripples of blue light coursing down their translucent bells, warning others to stay away. Squid launch glowing clouds to confuse attackers. Even microscopic plankton sparkle in the wake of passing whales, leaving trails of light like the contrails of underwater comets. Imagine floating there among them, surrounded by flickering specks, each one alive. They drift in silence, pulsing softly in the currents. The effect is mesmerizing, like watching constellations being born and dissolving again in seconds. The deep ocean, once imagined as lifeless blackness, becomes instead a living night sky, radiant and infinite. One of the most famous of these creatures is the anglerfish, a predator with a face that could haunt dreams and a lamp that could guide them. The female carries a glowing bulb at the end of a thin filament extending from her forehead, swaying it gently like a fisherman's bait. Small fish, drawn to the glow, swim closer, and in an instant, vanish into the darkness of her jaws. The light that lures them is produced by bacteria living inside the bulb, tiny symbiotic partners, turning chemistry into survival. Then there are the hatchet fish, slender and silver, whose bellies shimmer with bioluminescent light that matches the faint glow filtering down from above. This camouflage, called counter-illumination, hides them perfectly from predators below. To the creatures of the deep, light is not decoration, it is defense. It is invisibility and visibility at once, a paradox that keeps them alive. Deeper still, where even faint blue light fades, live the dragonfish and the stoplight loose-jaw rare hunters that produce red light, a color most deep-sea creatures cannot see. In this way, they gain an invisible advantage, illuminating their prey without ever revealing themselves. Their light cuts through darkness like a secret whispered between shadows. The first humans to witness this world were stunned. When submersibles descended into the abyss, their spotlights revealed glowing clouds that retreated and then returned, like galaxies drifting in slow motion. Cameras recorded creatures that looked more like dreams than animals. Jellies with neon filaments, shrimp that emitted bursts of emerald light, siphonophores hundreds of feet long that shimmered from one end to the other like ribbons of living lightning. It's easy to forget, looking at these displays, that they are not random, they are communication. Some fish flash coded patterns to attract mates, signaling through rhythmic blinks. Others synchronize their light with entire schools, moving in waves of brilliance that seem choreographed, as if the ocean itself were dancing. Each spark means something: hunger, fear, attraction, warning. It's a language older than sound, written in the oldest element of all, light. But what's even more profound is what this light does to us. Even from the surface, when we glimpse it in glowing waves or sparkles beneath a boat, something inside us stirs. It feels sacred, almost divine, to see the dark alive. Scientists call it cold light, but there's nothing cold about how it feels. It's a reminder that life refuses to surrender to emptiness, that even in the deepest dark, something always shines. The next time you find yourself at the ocean at night, remember, beneath you, millions of tiny lanterns drift unseen. Some glow for moments, some for hours, some never stop. Each flicker is an act of quiet rebellion against the void, a refusal to go unseen. And maybe that's why we're drawn to the sea at night. Because on some level, we recognize ourselves in it. We, too, create light in the dark. We, too, burn softly against the pressure of the unknown. The creatures of the deep and the dreamers on the surface share the same truth. Even in darkness, there is light. And sometimes, the quietest lights shine the longest. So close your eyes, take a slow breath, and imagine the sea glowing beneath you, a field of living stars, endless and calm, breathing in rhythm with your heart. The night is not empty. It never was. In the beginning, we thought all life needed sunlight, that warmth and brightness from above were the only sources of energy strong enough to feed a living world. But the deep sea tells another story, one far older and stranger. Down where sunlight never reaches, where cold and pressure reign, life thrives in complete darkness. These are the realms of life without the sun, a second origin story for our planet. Imagine drifting through this world, miles below the surface. The water around you is cold as ice and black as space. The weight of the ocean presses in from every direction, and yet, even here, in the silence and cold, something moves, something lives. The seafloor below you flickers faintly with pale shimmer, the glow of hydrothermal vents, where heat from the planet's core seeps through cracks in the crust. From these cracks, mineral-rich water bursts out like breath from a sleeping giant, hot enough to melt metal, yet surrounded by frigid seas. And around those vents, impossibly life gathers. Tube worms taller than a human rise from the rocks like pale pillars. They have no mouths, no stomachs, no eyes. Instead, they host bacteria inside their bodies, microbes that turn chemical energy into food. This process is called chemosynthesis. Where plants use sunlight to build life, these bacteria use the chemistry of the earth itself. They transform hydrogen sulfide, the same gas that smells like rotten eggs, into sugars, feeding entire ecosystems in eternal night. Crabs, shrimp, and snails crowd around the vents, their shells glinting like copper in the dim light. Some feed on bacteria, others host them, forming tiny partnerships that allow survival in the unthinkable. Even fish, blind and pale, swim in slow circles through the vent plumes, their bodies adapted to withstand the heat and pressure. Everything here depends not on the sun, but on the earth, on heat rising from the molten heart of the planet, on chemicals carried upward through invisible rivers of fire. It's hard to grasp, isn't it? That life can exist where light does not. That the planet itself feeds its own creatures from within. When these hydrothermal communities were first discovered in 1977, scientists were stunned. Until then, every living thing we knew relied, directly or indirectly, on photosynthesis. But these vent ecosystems rewrote that law, showing us that sunlight was not the only spark of creation. If life could begin here, in heat and darkness, then maybe it began this way at the dawn of Earth itself. Maybe the first cells didn't emerge in shallow pools kissed by sunlight, but in deep oceans where minerals and heat met in chemical embrace. Some scientists believe these hydrothermal vents are the birthplace of all life, the crucibles where the universe's chemistry became biology. The vents themselves are constantly changing. Some erupt violently, others whisper softly, like underwater geysers. When one vent dies, another opens nearby, and the cycle continues, life moving from chimney to chimney, as if following the planet's slow pulse. In the absence of sun and moon, time here is measured only by pressure and heat. And yet, beyond the vents, life finds other ways. There are creatures that survive on the carcasses of fallen whales, feeding for decades on the bones long after the flesh is gone. There are bacteria that live entirely off methane or ammonia, mining energy from compounds that would poison most living things. There are jellyfish that drift endlessly, neither rising nor sinking, their soft bells pulsing in the black. Each of these species proves that life is not fragile, it is adaptable. It doesn't depend on comfort or light. It exists wherever energy exists, from boiling vents to frozen trenches, from acidic seeps to lakes of brine, life endures. It finds balance in extremes, grace in isolation, meaning in silence. If you could stand on the ocean floor beside a vent and watch, you might see the water shimmer with heat and minerals, a vision both eerie and beautiful. The current glows faintly with reflected bioluminescence, drifting upward like sparks from a campfire. But there is no flame here, no sound. Only the slow motion of survival. When you think about it, the deep ocean is not so different from space. Both are vast, cold, and silent. Both are hostile to human life. Yet both cradle secrets that could explain where we came from and whether we are alone. Scientists who study hydrothermal vents often call them alien laboratories. They believe that if life exists on other worlds, on Jupiter's moon Europa or Saturn's moon Enceladus, it might look like this: microbes feeding on heat beneath an icy ocean. Perhaps, somewhere far beyond our skies, other oceans are breathing the same way, their vents glowing softly in the dark. Perhaps, when we gaze into space, what we're really seeing is a reflection of Earth's own hidden heart. So breathe for a moment and imagine it. A planet alive from the inside out, its core feeding its creatures with warmth and chemistry instead of sunlight. The deep sea hums softly, like the echo of a heartbeat beneath the crust. And within that pulse, life continues, not fragile, not lost, but patient, enduring, and eternal. The next time you see the ocean, remember this: the sunlight dances only on the surface, but the soul of the sea burns in the dark. And somewhere down there, Beneath the weight of worlds, life still glows without the sun, without light, but never without purpose. There are shapes in the deep that defy belief, giant forms that drift through the darkness, silent and slow as dreams. They are the giant shadows, creatures that stretch the limits of evolution and imagination. Down here, where pressure could crush a steel hull, size becomes its own mystery. The deep sea breeds giants not through myth, but through the physics of survival. The ocean's vastness allows for it. Food is scarce, light non-existent, and movement costly. So evolution answers with patience, efficiency, and sometimes enormity. The deeper you go, the stranger the bodies become elongated, weightless, fluid. Muscles turn to jelly, bones thin like glass, and eyes grow enormous to drink in every ghost of light. The most famous of these silent leviathans is the giant squid. For centuries, sailors told stories of monsters with arms long enough to pull ships into the abyss, tales dismissed as superstition. But they were right, in their way. The giant squid is real, and it is magnificent. With eyes the size of dinner plates and tentacles that can reach more than 10 meters long, it is among the largest invertebrates ever known. Its eyes are not merely large, they are telescopes for darkness, tuned to detect the faintest shimmer of light from far above or the soft pulse of bioluminescent prey far below. To encounter one would be like meeting a myth that never died. Yet even the giant squid is not the largest of its kind. Deep in the Southern Ocean, its cousin, the colossal squid, dwells in near-freezing waters, heavier and thicker, with hooks along its tentacles that turn its limbs into weapons. It is not a predator of fury, but of silence. Its attacks are quick, efficient, surgical. The marks of its battles are written on the skin of sperm whales, long, circular scars, left by desperate struggles in the deep. When the whales dive to hunt, the colossal squid rises to defend. Their duels unfold in total darkness, unseen by any eyes but their own. The deep has many such giants. The oarfish, long and silver as a river of mercury, may stretch over 10 meters and swim upright through the water like a ghostly banner. When storms or earthquakes bring it to the surface, it writhes and shimmers, its red fins glowing like fire, a creature mistaken for sea serpents since ancient times. Then there are the isopods, giant relatives of the common pillbug that scuttle across the seafloor. They grow as long as a human arm, armored in shells like ancient knights, scavenging on whale bones and detritus that drift down from above. They look alien, but are as calm and harmless as monks sweeping a temple floor. Even the jellyfish become vast in these depths. The giant Stygiomedusa gigantea drifts with a bell as wide as a car and tentacles that hang 10 meters long, translucent ribbons waving like silk in the currents. For years, scientists believed it extinct until remote cameras began finding it again, glowing faintly in the cold. It has no stinger. It doesn't fight. It simply floats, feeding gently, as if content to exist only as movement and light. Down here, gigantism is not excess, it's adaptation. The immense size helps these creatures conserve energy, move efficiently, and survive long periods without food. The deep ocean rewards slowness and endurance. Every heartbeat is precious. Every meal could be the last for months. Giants live by waiting, by patience, by the art of doing almost nothing at all. And yet, there is something spiritual about their presence. Watching one on a submersible screen feels like glimpsing a thought too large for language. Their bodies move with grace, not menace. They do not hunt humans or threaten ships. They simply are part of the slow breathing of the planet. In them, we see the quiet majesty of evolution, unhurried and unbothered by the noise above. Some scientists think the deep's pressure and cold may act like a natural preservative, allowing these creatures to grow slowly but endlessly, their lifespans stretching far beyond those of surface dwellers. A giant squid may live decades. A Greenland shark, even deeper still, might live for 5 centuries. That shark, blind and pale, has seen the passing of empires without ever seeing the Sunday. If you were to drift among them, among squids with eyes like moons, sharks as old as cathedrals, jellyfish glowing like silent lanterns, you might feel something ancient stir in you, a sense that these beings are not monsters but memories, the ocean's living archives, carrying the weight of ages in their slow, fluid hearts. And perhaps, as you float beside them, you'll understand what the sea has always tried to tell us, that greatness does not always roar. Sometimes it glides silently through darkness, patient and eternal, too vast to be feared, too gentle to be ignored. So, if you ever find yourself staring out at the night ocean, remember that beneath that calm surface, the giants are still moving unseen, undisturbed, as they have for millennia. They are the shadows that keep the deep alive, the slow pulse beneath the waves, the proof that mystery still breathes in this world. Far beneath the tides, scattered across the world's seabeds, lie the remains of human ambition, the ghosts of sunken ships. They rest in silence, wooden ribs and iron bones, half buried in sand, their stories preserved in the dark. Once they were vessels of discovery and trade, of conquest and hope. Now they are time capsules, sleeping in the same stillness as whales and coral. The sea has taken them, but not cruelly. It has turned them into part of its memory. Every shipwreck begins as a moment of chaos, a storm, a fire, a battle, or a single misjudged wave. But time erases violence. Down here, there is no wreckage, only transformation. Barnacles bloom where paint once glistened. Coral fingers weave through broken hulls. Fish glide through open doorways where sailors once walked. Cannons and compasses lie side by side with sea urchins and starfish. The sea does not destroy. It reimagines. Some ships lie only a few hundred meters deep, where sunlight still reaches in green and gold, painting their decks in trembling light. Others rest miles below, beyond the reach of any diver, wrapped in perpetual darkness. Their names are lost to history, their journeys forgotten. And yet, every one of them tells a story of courage, of distance, of human hands trying to tame the ocean, and finally, becoming part of it. The Titanic lies 2.5 miles down, its grand halls now home to ghostly fish and snow-like drifts of sediment. Time has softened its tragedy. What was once a wound in human history is now a quiet reef, where life grows on steel. The chandelier that once glittered in candlelight now sways with the current. The banisters are covered in rusticles, icicle-like formations of bacteria that slowly eat the iron, transforming decay into living sculpture. But the Titanic is only one story among thousands. The Baltic Sea hides warships from centuries past, preserved by its cold, brackish water. Japanese merchant ships from World War II lie on the floor of the Pacific, their cargo holds still filled with porcelain, tools, and sometimes letters that never reach their destinations. Ancient Greek triremes, Viking longboats, and Egyptian barges all sleep beneath layers of sand and coral. The ocean keeps them with equal tenderness, whether they carried treasure or grain. In the Caribbean, coral has turned wrecks into blooming sanctuaries. Parrotfish nibble at cannon barrels, and sponges fill shattered windows. The sea is a patient artist. Over decades, it repaints steel in living color, pink coral, green algae, golden anemones, until the ship seems less a ruin than a dreamscape. Some explorers who descend to these wrecks say they feel watched, not by ghosts, but by history itself. The pressure of the deep is not only physical, it's emotional too. To stand before a wheel still fixed in place, a teacup resting untouched, or a shoe half buried in silt is to feel the weight of time pressing against your chest. Every object whispers of hands that once held it, voices that once filled the air. Now, the ocean holds those voices in its quiet lungs. But where we see loss, the deep sees rebirth. A sunken ship becomes an ecosystem. Metal and wood offer hard surfaces where larvae can attach, where coral can take root. Within a year, life begins to colonize it. Within decades, the structure becomes unrecognizable, a living reef made from human memory. The sea, endlessly forgiving, turns tragedy into shelter. Robotic submersibles often capture haunting images of these wrecks. Chairs still aligned in rows, clocks frozen at the moment the ship went down, corridors untouched except for drifting silt. It feels like looking into a parallel world, one where time stopped, but life continued in another form. Crabs patrol the decks. Octopuses curl up inside helmets. Lanternfish drift through portholes, their faint glow illuminating what remains. In some ways, these wrecks are the deep's own museums. Each one preserves a fragment of human history, yet each is slowly claimed by nature. The ocean never forgets, but it never clings, either. It lets everything fade gracefully. The deeper the wreck, the slower the decay. In the pitch-black cold of the abyssal zones, where oxygen is scarce and bacteria sluggish, ships can remain intact for centuries. The wood hardens into stone-like density. The iron rusts into fragile lace. These wrecks become fossils of civilization, reminders that even our strongest creations are temporary guests on a planet that endures. And still, we keep sending ships across the waves. We keep trusting the ocean, even knowing its history of swallowing what we love. Perhaps it's because we sense something beautiful in that surrender. To sail is to risk, and to risk is to live. Every voyage is a conversation with the deep, and every shipwreck is simply the sea's quiet reply, "Come home." If you listen closely to recordings from submersibles, you can sometimes hear the faint creak of metal, the soft crack of settling wood, the hiss of water moving through corridors. It sounds almost like breathing. The ocean, inhaling and exhaling through what was once ours. So as you drift above these ghostly ruins in your imagination, remember that the sea does not hold grudges, it only holds memories. The ships that vanished into its depths were never lost, they were transformed, carried into a slower rhythm of existence, where silence becomes story and decay becomes beauty. And somewhere out there, deep in the black, another wreck lies waiting. A new reef will grow, new creatures will come. The ghosts of men will fade, but the ocean will remember the shape of their dreams. If you close your eyes and listen to the sea, you'll hear more than just the crash of waves. Beneath the surface, sound becomes something else thicker, slower, older. In the deep ocean, where light vanishes completely, hearing replaces sight. Every creature, every current, every movement sends a vibration through the water. To the ocean, sound is memory. To the creatures that live within it, sound is the language of survival. Down here, sound travels nearly 5 times faster than it does through air. It stretches and bends, carrying voices from miles away. A single whale call can circle the planet, its deep hum traveling through layers of temperature and density like a song wandering through glass. And yet, the deeper you go, the quieter it seems, not because there is no sound, but because it moves differently. It's not the noise of chaos, but the rhythm of breathing, long, slow, resonant. Imagine floating there in that darkness, your ears surrounded by water older than time. At first, you hear nothing. Then, slowly, faint patterns emerge. The low rumble of distant waves colliding overhead, the distant crackle of shifting ice far away, the whisper of sand grains tumbling along the sea floor. If you listen long enough, the silence becomes full, a vast, living orchestra that never stops playing. Some of the loudest creatures on Earth live in this quiet world. The blue whale, for instance, can produce calls louder than a jet engine, yet so low that humans can't hear them without special equipment. These calls are not random. They are love songs, location signals, and family greetings that can be felt across oceans. Each whale sings its own dialect, a melody that may change over decades, evolving like human language. Then there are the sperm whales, whose clicking pulses are sharp and deliberate, like sonar crafted by nature. Each click is a snapshot, painting a map of the world around them through reflected sound. When researchers recorded their sequences, they discovered that whales use unique combinations patterns that could even represent personal names. Imagine a society where identity is a rhythm, where a heartbeat becomes a word. Even the smallest creatures contribute to the symphony. Shrimp create a continuous crackling sound, tiny pops of cavitation bubbles bursting as they snap their claws. This collective sound, known as the sea's static, can fill the background like a constant rain. Fish grunt, croak, and hum to attract mates or warn intruders. Crabs scrape their claws against coral. Each note is part of the grand harmony of life. But not all sounds are natural. Human noise has found its way into this orchestra too. The low thrum of ships, the hum of sonar, and the distant pulse of drilling rigs all travel farther underwater than we realize. In some places, the ocean's own music is drowned out by our machines. Whales change their routes to escape it. Dolphins grow confused, their songs interrupted. The ocean listens to us, even when we forget that it can. And yet, beneath the noise, the deep keeps its secrets. There are sounds we still cannot explain. Mysterious hums, whistles, and rumbles, recorded by underwater microphones, known as hydrophones. Scientists have named some of them: the bloop, Julia, upsweep. They rise suddenly, echo for minutes, then vanish. Theories abound: icebergs breaking apart, volcanic eruptions, maybe even unknown species. But the truth remains elusive. The ocean hums, and we are left to wonder who or what is singing back. In the Haddle zones, deeper than 6,000 meters, sound changes again. Pressure transforms it into something physical, almost tactile. When a distant earthquake shakes the sea floor, its echo travels through the water like a heartbeat, felt more than heard. Sometimes, the earth groans, its tectonic plates shifting like ancient doors. The deep listens, unbothered. It has heard this song before, for billions of years. Even silence here is a kind of sound. It hums in your bones, in your heartbeat, in the slow rhythm of your breath. In this place, hearing is not just with the ears, it's with the whole body. The longer you stay, the more you sense it. A low vibration, constant and eternal, like the pulse of the planet itself. Submersible microphones have captured these vibrations. Soft tremors from vent fields, faint crackles from microscopic life, even the gentle pings of rain striking the surface miles above. Each sound, no matter how small, adds to the chorus. Together, they form the most complex soundscape on Earth, a world without silence, where everything speaks. The ocean's voice is patient. It doesn't shout, it resonates. When we listen carefully, we realize it has always been speaking to us in the crash of waves, in the sigh of tides, in the faint hiss that fills seashells when we hold them to our ears. That sound isn't imaginary. It's the echo of your own blood, the reminder that you, too, are mostly water, that your body carries the same rhythm as the sea. When night falls and you lie awake, listen. You might not hear the whales or the cracking shrimp, but somewhere deep in your chest, their rhythm echoes in your heartbeat. The ocean's pulse is our pulse, its silence, our silence. So next time you stand by the shore, remember, the sea is never quiet. It's speaking always through waves, through currents, through the endless hum beneath the deep. All we have to do is listen. If you were to journey deep enough beneath the ocean's surface, past the reach of sunlight and the shimmer of bioluminescent life, you would find something almost impossible to believe: lakes beneath the sea. Yes, real lakes. Waves, shores, ripples, and currents, all hidden inside the greater ocean itself. These are brine pools, places where salt concentration becomes so dense that the water separates into distinct layers, forming what looks like a second sea within the sea. The first explorers to discover them thought their eyes were deceiving them. When their submersibles descended into the Gulf of Mexico and the Red Sea, they saw smooth, reflective surfaces shimmering far below, perfectly still. The vehicles hovered over what looked like a shoreline, complete with cliffs, beaches, and tides. A robotic arm dipped into the water, and the arm bounced back. The brine was so heavy that it repelled anything trying to enter, like an invisible membrane dividing one world from another. These black lakes are among the most surreal and deadly places on Earth. The salinity inside them can be 5 to 10 times higher than normal seawater, making them toxic to most life. Anything that falls in fish, crabs, even small submersibles dies almost instantly. The dense brine suffocates them, freezing their bodies in a still tableau at the lake's edge, like statues guarding a forbidden temple. The edges of these pools are lined with the pale remains of life that wandered too close. And yet, even here, life endures. At the boundary between normal seawater and brine, bacteria thrive in thick, glowing mats. They feed on methane, hydrogen sulfide, and minerals, transforming death into energy. It is one of the most extreme examples of adaptation. We know a reminder that even at the edge of impossibility, life whispers, "I can." Each brine pool tells a story written in salt and time. Some were formed when ancient seas evaporated millions of years ago, leaving behind thick beds of salt that later became buried. As tectonic forces shifted and cracks opened in the ocean floor, seawater seeped down and dissolved those deposits, creating these dense pockets of brine. They are windows into the Earth's ancient chemistry, a living fossil of the planet's beginnings. There are several types. The hot lakes of the Red Sea, heated by volcanic activity, shimmer with strange rainbow reflections. The cold lakes of the Gulf of Mexico sit still and deadly, like mirrors of black glass. Some are small, just a few meters across. Others stretch for kilometers, vast enough to swallow entire ships in their heavy silence. Submersible footage shows how eerie they look. The brine surface ripples beneath the lights, waves lapping against rocky edges, as if the submersible were flying above an alien ocean. Plumes of shimmering distortion rise where the two layers meet, like heat mirages in a desert. It's a scene of beauty and danger, intertwined, a reminder that the deep ocean still defies human logic. Scientists sometimes call them death lakes, but that's not entirely fair. They are also cradles of chemistry. Within their toxic boundaries, reactions occur that mimic the conditions of early Earth, and perhaps even of other worlds. Researchers studying them have found complex organic molecules, the same kinds that could form the building blocks of life. Some believe that studying these pools might help us understand how life could exist on icy moons like Europa or Enceladus, where salty oceans lie beneath layers of frozen crust. If you think about it, these brine pools are the ocean's own memory of creation, places where Earth's first ingredients still mix in secret. They are reminders that even within beauty there can be danger, and even within danger, the spark of life. And as strange as it sounds, these hidden lakes are breathtakingly beautiful. Under the lights of a submersible, the edges glow faintly gold and green, illuminated by colonies of bacteria. The surfaces ripple with colors that shift between sapphire and smoke. It's like watching the universe form again, molecule by molecule, in silence and shadow. What's most haunting about them is the stillness. The brine's surface is so calm that it reflects perfectly an upside-down world mirroring the one above. For a moment, you lose track of what is real. The submersible floats between two skies, one above, one below. In that moment, you are suspended between realities, between life and death, chemistry and biology, illusion and truth. Down there, surrounded by pressure and darkness, time seems to stop. You could drift for hours, watching the currents bend and shimmer, and never grow bored. The sea, in its infinite creativity, has made worlds within worlds, oceans that hold oceans, silence that sings in chemical tones. And though most of us will never see these brine pools in person, we carry the same mystery within us. Our blood is salty like the sea. Our cells depend on the same ions that shape those black lakes. Perhaps, in some ancient way, we are not just descendants of the ocean, but reflections of it, mirrors of salt and light, endlessly layered, endlessly deep. The sea hides many things, but not out of malice. It hides them because it remembers what creation looks like. The quiet alchemy of heat, salt, and patience. So if you ever imagine drifting down to those black lakes at the bottom of the sea, don't think of them as places of death. Think of them as reminders that life always finds a way, even when the world above forgets that such a way could exist. Because even here, in the ocean's deepest silence, the universe is still speaking softly, in the language of salt and shadow. Every breath you take on the surface is light, effortless. The air moves in and out, your chest rises, your heart beats in rhythm with gravity. But far below, in the crushing dark of the abyss, the rules of life are rewritten. Down there, under thousands of tons of water, creatures survive under pressures so great they would crush a submarine, and yet their hearts still beat, softly, patiently, perfectly tuned to the weight of the world. At a depth of 10,000 meters, the pressure is more than 1,000 times what you feel right now. A human body would collapse in seconds, steel would buckle, and air would be squeezed out like breath from a bellows. But the inhabitants of the deep have found another way. They do not fight pressure. They become it. Every cell, every organ, every pulse has learned to live not against the weight, but within it. The secret begins at the smallest level inside their cells. Where land creatures rely on rigid structures to hold shape, deep sea life replaces stiffness with fluidity. Their cell membranes contain flexible fats that remain soft even at freezing temperatures, allowing the body to bend rather than break. Their proteins, the molecular engines of life, are reinforced with chemical bonds that resist distortion. And their blood contains special molecules, tiny shields that keep these proteins from collapsing under immense force. Take the snailfish that lives in the Mariana Trench. It looks delicate, almost translucent, like a ghost carved from milk glass. Yet it survives under pressures greater than 1,100 atmospheres. Its skin is soft, its bones nearly absent. Instead of resisting compression, its body yields, flowing with the water around it. Inside, its heart beats slowly, sometimes just once every few seconds, strong enough to keep life moving, gentle enough not to break itself. Even their blood is different. In the abyss, oxygen is scarce, and temperatures hover near freezing. To adapt, these creatures' hearts pump with astonishing efficiency. Their hemoglobin binds oxygen tightly, refusing to let a single molecule go to waste. Some species circulate antifreeze proteins that keep their blood from turning solid. Others thicken it until it moves like syrup, carrying warmth and energy through the cold. And yet, perhaps the most poetic adaptation is not physical, it's rhythmic. In the deep, where there is no dawn or dusk, heartbeats follow the sea itself. They slow with the currents, quicken with the drift of food, rest during long winters of darkness. Every pulse is a conversation with pressure, a soft reminder that life can be gentle even when the world is not. Scientists have recorded the heart rates of deep-sea fish rising and falling in tune with subtle changes in depth. When a current lifts them upward, the pressure decreases and the heart quickens. When they descend, it slows again. It's as if their bodies breathe with the ocean's lungs, inhaling and exhaling the weight of eternity. We humans, fragile and airbound, cannot truly imagine that. For us, pressure is fear. It means burden, stress, collapse. But to the deep-sea creatures, pressure is peace. It holds them, shapes them, defines them. They are proof that strength is not always hardness, that sometimes survival is softness perfected. The giant amphipod, for example, lives at depths where light has never existed. Its shell looks brittle, like glass. But that glass is made of aluminum, drawn mysteriously from seawater to create a natural armor stronger than bone. It drifts across the seabed unbroken, its heart steady beneath layers of transparent metal. Even more extraordinary are the ice fish of the Southern Ocean. They live where the sea is so cold that most hearts would freeze solid. Yet theirs beat without hemoglobin, at all their blood is clear, nearly colorless, carrying oxygen dissolved directly in the plasma. It is less efficient, slower, calmer. Their bodies move with the ease of beings that have never known haste. When researchers first retrieved these creatures and brought them toward the surface, most did not survive. Not because they were weak, but because they were too perfectly made for the world they came from. Freed from pressure, they simply unraveled. Their bodies expanded, their hearts burst. Life built for the deep cannot live in the air. It is bound to its home by balance, by the physics of peace. There's something haunting in that idea, that every being has its proper depth, that what sustains us in one realm can destroy us in another. The snailfish's grace becomes fragility above, just as our strength would shatter below. The ocean teaches humility through its heartbeats. To study these creatures, scientists build pressure chambers, tiny steel worlds that keep the deep inside the lab. In these sealed domes, cameras record translucent hearts still pulsing in the dark, even miles from home. Each beat is a soft defiance of impossibility. Each motion says, "We are still here." And perhaps, listening to those slow rhythms, we learn something about ourselves. Our own hearts, though small, endure their own kinds of pressure, the weight of time, of gravity, of memory. Yet they keep beating, steady and unbroken, adapting to what the world demands. In that way, we are not so different from the beings of the abyss. We too carry pressure-proof hearts. When you listen to the sea at night, the waves pounding against the shore might sound like heartbeats, thousands of them, moving in rhythm, echoing the unseen pulse of the deep. It is the same music that began long before us and will continue long after. The sound of endurance, the song of survival, the quiet proof that even under crushing weight, life still finds a way to love being alive. Down where sunlight dies, sight becomes a miracle. Yet in the deepest parts of the ocean, eyes still exist, some enormous and unblinking, some nearly invisible, some not eyes at all but organs that feel the world instead of seeing it. In a realm where light is a memory, life has reinvented the meaning of vision. These are the eyes made for darkness, shaped by millions of years to read the language of shadow and glow. For most creatures, the descent into blackness would mean blindness. Human eyes, designed for daylight, fail completely after a few hundred meters. But the deep sea is filled with eyes round, tubular, multifaceted, mirrored, each one crafted to grasp even the faintest photon drifting down from the surface or radiating from a living body. Down here, to see is to survive. The first thing that strikes explorers is the size of these eyes. Some, like those of the colossal squid, are the largest in the animal kingdom, bigger than a human head. They are immense spheres of glassy tissue, capable of capturing every hint of movement in the abyss. A flash of bioluminescence, a shadow crossing a current, a glimmer reflected from a fish's scale miles away. Nothing escapes their gaze. The squid's eyes evolved not for beauty, but for necessity. They are searchlights in a universe without stars. Other creatures have taken different paths. The barrel-eye fish, for instance, has transparent skin on its head, and its eyes point straight upward through its own skull, enclosed in a dome of clear tissue. From above, it looks almost eyeless. But inside that glass dome, the eyes rotate independently, scanning both the faint glow above and the dim shimmer below. It can watch prey silhouetted against the last dying rays of sunlight, while keeping an eye on predators approaching from the deep. Evolution has built it a living periscope. Then there are species that see not with eyes, but with their skin. Some jellyfish and starfish possess light-sensitive cells spread across their bodies, allowing them to detect changes in brightness and direction. They cannot form images, but they can feel the presence of light, like warmth or vibration, a primitive sight that guides them through shadow. For them, light isn't a picture, it's a touch. Even stranger are the creatures that create their own light and then use it to see. Certain squid species project flashes of blue to illuminate their surroundings, then instantly adjust the sensitivity of their retinas to read the reflections. It's like carrying a flashlight in the dark, but one that pulses in perfect harmony with your heartbeat. Scientists call these adaptations biological genius. To survive in darkness, you must first redefine what seeing means. And the ocean has done just that, again and again. Some fish, like the stoplight loosejaw, use dual-color vision in red and blue, a feat rare in the deep. Most deep-sea animals can't see red light. It's absorbed quickly by water, so these hunters produce it themselves. They beam out invisible red flashes that only their eyes can detect, revealing prey hidden to everyone else. Imagine moving through the dark with a private wavelength, a secret illumination only you can see. In the deep, privacy is survival. Even creatures that appear blind, like the blind lobster or the cave-dwelling crab, aren't truly sightless. Their eyes have fused into reflective plates that can detect faint shifts in light pressure, enough to sense when something moves nearby. Where vision fails, perception takes over. And yet, for all these adaptations, the darkness still wins in the end. At the greatest depths, beyond 8,000 meters, no light remains, not even the glow of life. Here, the eyes disappear entirely. Creatures move by touch, by vibration, by instinct alone. It's as if evolution finally accepted that to live in absolute night, one must surrender sight altogether. But even blindness has beauty. In the absence of vision, other senses bloom. The deep-sea cusk eel can hear frequencies imperceptible to human ears. The tripod fish feels the slightest movement through the sensitive spines of its fins, standing on them like stilts to wait for drifting prey. These creatures are artists of perception, tuned to a world of invisible motion. To humans, the idea of living without sight feels lonely, but to the ocean, it's simply another form of awareness. Here, light is not truth, it's an option. Some beings chase it, others ignore it, some carry it within themselves. The deep teaches that seeing is not about light, it's about attention. It's about knowing where you are, even when you can't see yourself. When cameras descend into this world, their bright beams pierce the dark, for only a few moments before the light fades again, swallowed by miles of water. And yet, in those moments, the eyes of the deep reflect it back, 1,000 tiny mirrors blinking open, acknowledging the brief intrusion. Then, just as softly, they close. The world returns to black, and the creatures resume their luminous solitude. Sometimes, I wonder if the ocean sees us the same way, brief flashes of light, appearing for a moment, then vanishing into history. Maybe it blinks back at us, curious, then lets us fade. In that thought, there's something oddly comforting. We are just another flicker in its vast, patient darkness, small, but seen. So tonight, as you listen and breathe, imagine those eyes opening in the deep, the immense, glowing orbs of the squid, the glass domes of the barreleye, the faint shimmer of plankton turning in invisible light. They are watching, not with judgment, but with quiet recognition. In them, the ocean keeps its awareness alive. And perhaps, somewhere within you, the same awareness flickers too. A small, patient eye that sees in darkness, that knows how to find light even when none remains. At the farthest reaches of the ocean, where the planet folds in on itself, lie the deep-sea trenches, great scars in the Earth's crust, plunging 11 kilometers down into the unknown. They are the planet's hidden valleys, deeper than Everest is tall, colder than ice, and darker than any midnight sky. To descend into one is to enter another world, a place where gravity, pressure, and silence combine into something holy. And yet, even here, life endures. It waits, listens, and sends its quiet messages from the trenches. The most famous of these abysses is the Mariana Trench, a crescent-shaped chasm in the western Pacific Ocean. Its deepest point, known as Challenger Deep, sinks nearly 36,000 feet below the surface, a depth so extreme that only a handful of humans have ever visited it. The pressure there is beyond comprehension, more than 8 tons on every square inch, enough to crush metal like paper. Yet, in that crushing silence, life continues its patient rhythm. Imagine descending through miles of darkness. Your craft creaks as the water thickens, the light from above fades, and the cold seeps into every seam. The instruments tick slower, sound becomes muffled, and then suddenly you see movement. Tiny flashes of blue and white drift past the window. Not ghosts, but living things. Amphipods, snailfish, microbes, and creatures so small and strange they seem made of smoke. They glide through a place no sunlight has ever touched. A reminder that even the impossible can adapt. These trenches are not just holes in the earth. They are archives of time. Sediment falls into them grain by grain, collecting dust from continents, ash from volcanoes, and even particles from space. Every layer is a record, a quiet note in the diary of the planet. If we could read it fully, we would see stories written over millions of years. The rise and fall of sea levels, the growth of mountains, the birth of storms, the long drift of life, through epochs of extinction and renewal. The creatures that live here are messengers of this deep memory. Take the Haddle snailfish, a translucent being with no scales, and a body so fragile it would melt at the surface. It thrives where pressure should destroy it, using that force instead to stabilize its very molecules. Its skin glows faintly pink under artificial light, and its heart beats so slowly that each pulse feels like a whisper of time itself. When researchers captured footage of it in 8,000-meter trenches, it seemed almost serene, its fins waving gently, as though the ocean's weight were a kind of embrace. Even microbes buried in the sediments of these trenches are alive, metabolizing molecules in the cold darkness. They eat the chemical remains of everything that ever sank, plankton, bones, and minerals from the continents above. Each microscopic life form is a letter in an endless correspondence between the surface and the deep. They recycle the planet's history, transforming death into the raw ingredients of life. And the trenches send their messages upward too, not in words, but in movement. Deep earthquakes begin here, along the shifting boundaries of tectonic plates. Subduction zones, where one part of Earth slides beneath another, are not merely geological, they are dynamic, living systems. When they move, they send vibrations through the ocean that travel for thousands of miles. Those tremors, faintly detected by hydrophones, are like the heartbeat of the planet echoing through the water. To scientists, these vibrations are clues, helping us understand how the Earth breathes and reshapes itself. But to those who listen closely, they feel like something more, a pulse of life, ancient and vast, older than any species that listens to it. Each quake is a reminder that the world is still alive beneath us, restless and dreaming. The trenches also hide strange phenomena that defy explanation. In 1997, microphones near the southern Pacific picked up an enormous, low-frequency sound, unlike anything recorded before. It was deep, rhythmic, organic, almost like a voice. They called it the bloop. At first, some imagined it to be the call of a colossal, unknown creature. Later, scientists suggested it might have been the cracking of an iceberg or the shifting of undersea rock. But the truth? No one knows for sure. The ocean keeps some secrets too well. Each expedition into these abysses reveals something new. In the Kermadec Trench, researchers found amphipods with metallic-looking shells and worms that glow like candlelight. In the Tonga Trench, they recorded temperatures warmer than expected, evidence that volcanic heat still pulses deep below. And in every trench explored, they found signs of human presence: microplastics, fibers, fragments of paint. Even at the farthest edge of the Earth, our shadow has arrived. Yet, amid that melancholy truth, there's wonder too. The fact that life still thrives here, life that glows, that eats, that reproduces, is proof of resilience beyond imagination. The trenches are not dead zones, they are sanctuaries of endurance. They remind us that life's boundaries are far wider than we once believed. When explorers return from these depths, they often describe a strange emotion, something between awe and reverence. They say the silence there feels ancient, sacred, like standing inside the planet's heart. The ocean does not speak, but it listens. And sometimes, in that pressure-filled quiet, it feels as if it is waiting for you to listen back. If you were to hover above Challenger Deep right now, you would see nothing on the surface but an ordinary patch of blue. The waves roll, the sunlight glints, and no one would suspect that 11 kilometers below, the Earth is whispering in seismic tones, writing slow messages in the dark. So, as you drift to sleep tonight, imagine yourself descending through those layers of time, past the flickering fish, past the coral, past even the volcanoes, until the sea becomes still and heavy. There, at the bottom of everything, listen carefully. You might hear it, the slow heartbeat of the planet, sending a message that says, "I am still alive. I am still becoming." For most of human history, the deep sea was a dream we could never touch, a mystery just beyond our reach, whispering through waves and myths. We mapped the heavens before we mapped the ocean floor. We sent telescopes to the edge of the solar system before we truly saw the bottom of our own planet. But that changed when we built machines that could dare the impossible, to dive where no sunlight shines, to breathe where no air exists, and to return with stories from the black. The journey into the deep has always begun with curiosity and courage wrapped in steel. The first explorers of the abyss were not sailors or swimmers, but inventors. In 1930, William Beebe and Otis Barton created the bathysphere, a round steel ball barely big enough for two men. Lowered by a cable into the Atlantic off Bermuda, it descended nearly a kilometer, its tiny window revealing a world no one had ever seen. Bioluminescent creatures drifted past, like living galaxies. Beebe wrote that it was as if the night sky had been poured into the sea. That small, clanging sphere opened the door to the unknown. Decades later came the bathyscaphe Trieste, built by Auguste Piccard and piloted by his son Jacques. On the 23rd of January 1960, they descended into the Mariana Trench itself, reaching nearly 11,000 meters Challenger Deep. The pressure there was so immense that the window cracked slightly on the way down, yet they continued, unshaken. When they reached the bottom, they saw the seafloor illuminated by their lights. Pale sediment, small creatures moving slowly, calm as a dream. Humanity had finally touched the deepest place on Earth. Since then, technology has evolved, but the spirit of that first dive remains the same, a mix of awe and fear. Today's explorers travel in submersibles, like Alvin, Limiting Factor, or Japan's Shinkai, 6,500 sleek capsules of titanium and glass, capable of withstanding pressures that would crush aircraft carriers. Inside, the explorers sit in near darkness, surrounded by humming machines, watching tiny windows that frame an alien world. Outside, the lights pierce the black, revealing colors that have never seen the Sunday. Pale corals rise like ghostly trees, jellyfish drift like fragments of glass, and strange fish follow the sub's glow, curious about this new intruder of metal and air. Every minute down there feels longer than hours on the surface. The silence presses as much as the water itself. Yet, more and more, it isn't humans who make these journeys, it's robots. The ocean's true pioneers are now unmanned. Remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, and autonomous underwater drones. Machines like Jason, Nereus, and Kaiko roam the depths for days or weeks, sending back live video from places where no human can survive. Their arms reach delicately into the dark to collect samples, snails, sediments, or shards of volcanic rock still warm from the planet's interior. Some of these drones move entirely on their own, guided by artificial intelligence that reads the terrain like a living mind. They navigate by sonar maps and low-frequency echoes, drifting gracefully between trench walls. Watching their footage feels like peering through a dream camera, smooth, weightless, endlessly quiet. These machines have shown us things we never imagined. Rivers of methane flowing across the seafloor, volcanoes erupting beneath ice, forests of coral growing on shipwrecks, and creatures that shimmer like galaxies. They found new species almost every time they descend. In fact, the majority of life on Earth may still be undiscovered, hiding just beyond the reach of light, waiting for one more camera to pass by. There's a kind of poetry in it. The idea that we built metal hearts to explore where ours could not go. Every screw, every bolt, every beam of light descending into the abyss carries the curiosity of billions of human souls. When those machines hum into the dark, they carry not just data, but wonder. And sometimes they fail. Pressure crushes them. Circuits collapse. A miscalculated descent ends in silence. The ocean accepts them, as it has accepted so many others, folding them gently into the silt. For every successful dive, there are a dozen that vanish, their signals fading into static. The sea always keeps a few secrets for itself. Still, we try again. Because for us, discovery is not about conquest, it's about connection. When explorers watch the live feed from miles below, they often describe feeling a strange peace. It's not fear of the dark, but recognition. They see something familiar in the slow rhythms of the deep, the patience, the balance, the silence that our surface world has forgotten. In 2012, filmmaker James Cameron made a solo descent into Challenger Deep in his sleek green submersible, the Deep Sea Challenger. When he reached the bottom, he turned off the lights and simply sat there, surrounded by the darkness of eternity. Later, he said, "It felt like being in a completely alien world and realizing it was still Earth." That's the truth of these machines. They aren't just tools, they are mirrors. Each descent shows us a reflection of our own curiosity, our longing to understand what lies beyond the visible. They remind us that exploration is not about finding the limits of the planet. It's about realizing how limitless life truly is. When the lights of a sub fade into the black, it's easy to imagine the ocean watching, quietly amused, as we press our faces against glass to glimpse its secrets. We will never conquer it, and we were never meant to. We were meant to listen, to observe, to be humbled. And so we send our machines again and again, each dive a heartbeat, each return a breath. Every time they descend, the ocean whispers the same thing back to us: come deeper, not just into the sea, but into ourselves, into the patience, the silence, and the vastness that we share with the world we came from. Because in the end, the deep does not need us to explore it. We need it to remember who we are and how small we were always meant to be. There is a world beneath the world we know, a kingdom, without sunlight, borders, or noise. It is invisible to the naked eye, yet it rules the ocean's balance, shaping every wave, every current, and even the air we breathe. This is the unseen kingdom, a realm of microbes, plankton, and tiny drifting beings that form the foundation of all life on Earth. When we imagine the ocean, we think of whales, sharks, and coral reefs. But the true architects of the sea are creatures so small they could fit on the tip of a needle. They float by the trillions, forming invisible clouds that stretch from pole to pole. Each one is alive, each one working quietly to keep the planet breathing. In every drop of seawater, there are more living organisms than there are humans on the entire Earth. This microscopic kingdom began long before any fish swam or plants took root. Billions of years ago, it was microbes that first learned how to capture sunlight and turn it into energy. They invented photosynthesis, the process that gave the planet oxygen. Without them, there would be no blue skies, no green forests, no human lungs. Every breath you take is borrowed from a cycle that began with invisible life in the ocean. The ocean's phytoplankton, tiny, drifting plants, still perform this miracle every day. They float near the surface, absorbing sunlight, dividing endlessly, creating oxygen with each cell they form. These tiny beings are responsible for more than half the oxygen in our atmosphere. Every other breath you take comes from the sea. They are the planet's invisible forest, its quietest saviors. Beneath them drifts another army, the zooplankton, microscopic animals that feed on phytoplankton and in turn feed almost everything else. Fish larvae, krill, jellyfish, and whales all depend on them. Every night, billions of zooplankton rise from the deep to feed, then retreat again before dawn. It's the largest migration on Earth, not of herds or birds, but of shadows smaller than dust. The ocean moves because they move. Deeper still lie the bacteria and archaea, ancient organisms that live in total darkness. They thrive around hydrothermal vents, feeding on sulfur and methane instead of sunlight. Some live inside rocks. Others drift through black water in numbers beyond counting. They recycle carbon, digest waste, and release nutrients that nourish everything from coral reefs to whales. Without them, the ocean would choke in its own abundance. There's beauty even in their simplicity. Some form glowing colonies that shimmer like faint galaxies, each cell communicating through chemical whispers. Others build mats on the seafloor, spreading like living carpets. And some, especially those near the vents, form the base of entire ecosystems, sustaining creatures we once thought impossible. These bacteria are not just survivors, they are creators, quietly crafting the chemistry that makes all life possible. Scientists now know that this invisible world shapes everything we see. The color of the water, the rhythm of the currents, even the climate itself, are controlled by microscopic life. When plankton bloom in spring, they change the ocean's color, painting it green and blue from space. When they die, their bodies sink, carrying carbon with them, locking away greenhouse gases deep in the seabed. In this way, the ocean breathes in and out, exhaling oxygen, inhaling carbon, keeping the planet in balance. And yet, for all their power, these beings are fragile. A small rise in temperature, a shift in acidity, or a burst of pollution can wipe out entire populations. Satellite imagery shows that some plankton blooms now appear earlier than before, disrupted by the warming seas. If they falter, the ocean's breath will falter too. The chain of life from microbes to whales to humans depends on them continuing their invisible work. But the unseen kingdom is resilient. It adapts faster than anything else on Earth. When new conditions arise, it evolves overnight, altering its chemistry, finding new ways to live. Some microbes can consume oil spills, turning disaster into sustenance. Others break down plastic particles, slowly digesting humanity's waste. The smallest beings in the sea may yet save it. There's a poetic humility in knowing that our world depends on what we cannot see. Every sunrise, every breath, every ripple of water owes something to these invisible lives. They are the planet's memory, its lungs, its bloodstream. They link the past to the present, the deep to the surface, the living to the dead. When submersibles drift through these unseen clouds, their cameras can't capture the full scale of it. The water looks empty, but it isn't. It teems with movement too small for light to touch. Laser beams scatter as countless microscopic bodies drift by, each one reflecting a moment of creation. In those specks lies the secret of endurance. Perhaps the unseen kingdom mirrors something within us, the quiet systems that keep us alive, the heartbeat, the breath, the flow of blood. We are also made of invisible rhythms. We too are kept alive by what we never notice. So tonight, as you imagine the ocean's dark depths, remember the smallest citizens of its empire. They don't roar or glow or rise in storms. They just drift, multiply, and breathe for us all. They are proof that the greatest forces in the universe rarely shout, they whisper. And somewhere, right now, as you listen to this, trillions of unseen hearts are beating in the water, turning sunlight into air, keeping the planet alive while the rest of us sleep. For all our submarines, satellites, and sensors, the ocean remains the last great mystery of Earth. We have mapped the surface of Mars with more precision than the seafloor beneath our feet. We have landed on the moon, yet we still don't know what lives in the deepest trenches of our own planet. The truth is simple, humbling, and a little haunting. We still don't know, not even close. More than 80% of the world's oceans remain unexplored. That's not a poetic exaggeration. It's a scientific fact. Beneath those uncharted waters lie mountains taller than Everest, valleys wider than the Grand Canyon, and entire ecosystems that have never been seen by human eyes. Each descent into the abyss, each flicker of light on a sonar screen, reveals only a fraction of what waits below. The ocean hides its secrets, well, not out of cruelty, but out of patience. Every time scientists send a submersible into the deep, they discover something unexpected. A new species of jellyfish shaped like a crown. A worm that glows with red and green sparks. A fish that appears to hover, motionless, with wings like silk. Some of these creatures vanish as soon as they're seen, leaving only seconds of footage and 1,000 questions. Others rise to the surface dead, crushed or decomposed, their true colors lost. The deep gives glimpses, not answers. And it's not only life that remains unknown. The ocean floor itself is a puzzle still being assembled. Vast stretches of it are unmapped, hidden beneath miles of darkness. Scientists use sonar to trace outlines, but details are scarce. Mountains, volcanoes, plains, and trenches exist unseen, like the dark side of the moon lying beneath us. Sometimes, ships record mysterious signals, anomalies on radar that appear and disappear, shapes that seem to move, though no current explains them. Maybe it's a trick of data. Or maybe it's something we haven't met yet. Even the ocean's chemistry holds riddles. Beneath the crust, there may be vast reservoirs of water 3 times the amount on the surface, trapped within minerals and heated by the Earth's mantle. Some researchers believe these hidden oceans circulate through the planet like blood through veins, influencing everything from earthquakes to magnetic fields. If true, it would mean the deep ocean isn't just part of Earth. It is Earth, its heart and memory entwined. Then there are the sounds. Strange, unclassified noises have been recorded for decades, rumbles, clicks, and groans that defy identification. Some are natural, ice cracking, volcanic vents, whales calling across continents. But others, like the legendary bloop, or Julia, or upsweep, remain unexplained. They echo through miles of water, too powerful to come from any known creature. When scientists replay these recordings, there's a tremor in their voices, not fear, exactly, but wonder, because for all our instruments, we're still listening to ghosts. The ocean also keeps secrets of time civilizations swallowed whole, landscapes erased by rising tides. Beneath the North Sea, divers have found the remains of an ancient world, forests and rivers that once stretched between Britain and Europe before they were drowned 10,000 years ago. Off the coasts of India, Egypt, and Japan, structures lie buried in silt walls, pillars, and streets, worn smooth by centuries of current. Whether they are natural or man-made, we cannot yet say. The sea holds history, like a locked diary, its pages turned by the slow hand of time. Perhaps the greatest mystery, though, is not what we haven't seen, but what we can't explain. How did life first rise from the water? How do animals navigate in pitch-black depths? Why do some creatures glow, sing, or migrate in perfect patterns across thousands of miles? Even now, new discoveries challenge everything we thought we knew. Each answer opens 100 new questions, like waves that never stop rolling. There's beauty in that uncertainty, because the unknown is not emptiness, it's potential. It's what keeps the ocean alive, and what keeps us curious. If we ever learned all its secrets, the sea would stop being a mystery and become just another map. But the deep refuses to be mapped completely. It protects its wonders behind distance, darkness, and silence. And maybe that's how it's meant to be. When explorers return from their dives, they often describe the same feeling: humility. Standing again under sunlight, they realize how little we know and how vast the unknown still is. The ocean stretches farther than imagination, deeper than fear, quieter than thought. It doesn't need to reveal everything. It only needs to remind us that mystery is not something to be solved, it's something to be honored. Even now, we send machines into its depths, chasing shadows. We drop microphones and listen for voices. We lower cameras and hope for light. And sometimes, for just a moment, the ocean answers a glow, a movement, a pulse of sound, and then the darkness closes again. Maybe that's the point. The deep is not a puzzle waiting to be finished. It's a mirror, reflecting our desire to understand. And as long as we keep asking, it will keep whispering back. Because the ocean's greatest secret may be this, that it doesn't hide from us at all. It simply waits for us to slow down, to listen, and to remember that wonder itself is a kind of knowledge. So tonight, as you drift towards sleep, let the waves of mystery wash over you. Don't try to solve them, just listen. Somewhere out there, in the black water that covers most of our world, the sea is still humming softly, reminding us how much we still don't know, and how beautiful that not knowing can be. Beneath everything we know, beneath the waves, beneath the storms, beneath the shifting blue, there is a silence so vast that words can barely reach it. It is the still point of the turning world, the heart of the ocean, the place where motion becomes peace. This is the quiet below, where the sea stops roaring and simply is. If you could sink there, past the shimmering sunlight, past the midnight zone, past even the trenches, you would find a calm that defies the imagination. The pressure would be unimaginable, the darkness complete, and yet the silence would not feel empty. It would feel alive, filled with the weight of everything that has ever lived or died, everything that ever drifted down to rest. It is not a void, it is a cradle. Scientists describe the deep ocean as stable, but that word is too small. It is not stability, it is eternity. The water moves, yes, but slowly, like breath, in a sleeping giant. Currents that begin in the Arctic may take 1,000 years to reach the Pacific, carrying whispers of cold and memory. Down there, time doesn't flow as we know it. It lingers, it listens. If you could hear this silence, it would not be quiet at all. It would be full of soft vibrations, the faint crackle of microscopic life, the sigh of sediment settling, the distant hum of tectonic plates. All the sounds of the planet, distilled into one low, eternal note. Astronauts who have looked down on Earth from orbit describe the planet as alive with motion, but divers who have gone to the bottom of the sea describe it as alive with stillness. The contrast is perfect. The surface moves, the depths rest. This is where the ocean dreams. Every fallen leaf, every grain of dust, every forgotten echo from the surface eventually drifts here, settling into the silt. Whale bones, volcanic ash, cosmic dust, all merge together in slow communion. Over millennia, they become rock, then mountain, then memory. The deep doesn't rush. It knows that everything eventually returns. The creatures here are reflections of that patience. Snailfish drift like thought. Sea cucumbers crawl with the rhythm of meditation. Microbes live for centuries, dividing once every few decades, their lives stretched into an eternity of stillness. Nothing wastes energy. Nothing hurries. Down here, even death is gentle, a slow transformation rather than an ending. Somewhere in this quiet, between the weight of the water and the pulse of the planet, the ocean keeps the world's oldest secrets. The composition of its salts, the patterns of its currents, the music of its molecules, all carry the memory of creation itself. Before there was land, there was this. Before there was life, there was this. The ocean's silence is the echo of the earth's first breath. And in that silence, something miraculous happens. Pressure, darkness, and cold things that seem deadly to us become the foundation of peace. The deep doesn't resist the forces that shape it. It welcomes them. It transforms them. What would crush us gives it structure. What would freeze us gives it calm. The ocean teaches a lesson older than humanity. Surrender is not defeat. It is balance. Every diver, every explorer who has descended into the abyss speaks of the same feeling, a sense of awe that borders on reverence. It's as if the sea itself holds you, absorbing your heartbeat into its own rhythm. There, beneath the surface world of noise and motion, your body becomes weightless, your thoughts slow, your breath sinks with the eternal tide. For a few moments, you stop being separate from the world. You become part of it. When you resurface, the sound of the wind feels louder, the light brighter, the world sharper. You realize how rare silence truly is, how much of life is spent running from it. But down there, in the quiet below, silence is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of peace. The ocean, for all its power and mystery, is not angry or cruel. It is simply patient. It waits for us to listen, to remember that the same water filling its depths runs through our veins. We are made of this same element, born from it, sustained by it. The boundary between human and ocean is thinner than we think. If you lie still tonight and close your eyes, you might hear it, the faint rhythm of waves, the deep hum of the earth turning beneath you. That's the ocean speaking, not in language, but in feeling. It tells you that the world is vast, but not lonely. That time moves slowly, but never stops. that even in darkness there is calm. And when you finally drift to sleep, imagine yourself sinking, not falling, but floating through layers of blue into that endless quiet. Let your heartbeat slow to match the seas. Let the noise of the day dissolve until all that remains is stillness. The kind of stillness that holds everything, forgives everything, and waits forever. If you listen long enough to the sea, it begins to sound like memory. Every ripple, every current, every drop that touches the shore carries the echo of something ancient. Scientists say that water is the most persistent traveler on Earth. It never dies. It never truly rests. It only changes form. The water in your veins, the rain on your window, the waves that touch the sand, they are all the same, reshaped fragments of a story billions of years old. Long before there was land, there was only water boiling, steaming, forming clouds that fell back as endless rain. Those first drops cooled the world and filled its hollows, carving valleys and oceans. Since then, not a single drop has been lost. The water you drink tonight may once have flowed through the gills of a trilobite or fallen as snow on an ancient glacier. It might have been exhaled by a dinosaur or drifted in the clouds above forgotten empires. Water is time-made liquid. Every molecule remembers. It holds the fingerprints of volcanoes, storms, and stars. Some scientists believe that the hydrogen in Earth's oceans was born before the sun itself created in the first seconds after the Big Bang, when the universe was still finding its shape. In every wave, there is starlight. In every breath of mist, the residue of creation. On the surface, we see only motion waves rising, breaking, vanishing. But beneath that movement lies continuity. Water connects everything. It flows from mountain to river, river to sea, sea to cloud, and back again. It passes through air, through soil, through flesh, and through thought. The same cycle that shapes tides also shapes us. More than half of your body is water, and it obeys the same rhythm as the moonlit ocean. Rise, fall, ebb, and flow. In this way, the sea is not just outside you, it is within you. When you feel calm near water, it is not because it soothes you, it is because it recognizes you. Your heartbeat slows to match the pulse of the waves. Your breathing syncs with the tide. You are remembering something older than language, what it felt like to belong. The idea of the memory of water has inspired poets and physicists alike. Some say its molecules record the frequencies of what they touch: minerals, air, sound, even emotion. Though unproven, the thought is beautiful, that each raindrop carries stories not only of storms, but of songs and sorrows once whispered into the sea. Imagine if every ocean wave were a library, filled not with words, but with sensations, whale songs, thunder, laughter, rain. Under a microscope, frozen water reveals patterns like flowers and stars, snowflakes, each one unique, delicate, and fleeting. Even in their geometry, you can see memory made visible, symmetry born from chaos. It's as if water remembers beauty as a habit, repeating it endlessly in new forms. When sunlight strikes a droplet, it bends and splits, creating color. That is how a rainbow is born, a prism of memory, reminding us that light and water are old friends. The arc fades, but the connection remains. Every time you see that curve of color in the sky, you are witnessing the Earth's oldest collaboration, the sky and the sea painting together. And yet, water also remembers grief. It holds the taste of loss, the salt of tears, the residue of storms. It carries the minerals of ancient bones, the whispers of vanished rivers. It flows around wrecks, through coral, over cities long drowned. And still, it moves on, healing as it travels. That's what makes it sacred. It never denies what it has seen. It simply continues. When you touch the ocean, You touch every story it has ever known. When it rains, the past falls again, washing the present clean. Water never forgets, but it always forgives. So tonight, if you close your eyes, imagine yourself as part of that great cycle, drifting, flowing, evaporating, returning. You are rain, river, tide, and tear. You are ancient and new at once. You are the memory of water, dreaming itself alive again. The sea speaks, but not in words. Its language is rhythm, repetition, breath. It doesn't shout, it whispers in cycles. Every wave that rises and falls carries a message from somewhere far away, translated through wind and moonlight. If you learn to listen, you can hear it, the pulse of the planet, the steady heartbeat beneath chaos. Waves are not just surface motion. They are the voice of the earth, shaped by the pull of the moon, by storms thousands of miles away, by invisible hands of gravity. Each one carries energy across the planet, ripples born from earthquakes, winds, and even the footsteps of the sky. Some are small and playful. Others are tsunamis that travel silently for hours before touching land. Together, they form the oldest language on Earth, the song of movement. When you stand at the shore, the sound you hear, the crash and retreat, isn't random. It's a conversation between the sea and the sky. Each wave that breaks has traveled for days, maybe weeks, carrying whispers from another coast. When it reaches you, it dies into foam, leaving only its sound. I was here. Physicists describe waves as patterns of energy oscillations, moving through matter. But poets call them breath, and perhaps both are true. The ocean breathes in swells and exhales in surf. That breathing is the planet's meditation, the same rhythm that guides our own lungs. When we stand by the sea, we unconsciously match its tempo. Our heartbeats slow, our thoughts loosen. The brain synchronizes with the rhythm of waves, producing alpha frequencies, the same pattern seen in calm, mindful sleep. That is why the sea soothes us. It speaks directly to the nervous system, to the oldest parts of our biology that remember the womb of water we came from. Every wave also carries history. The tides that lap at your feet tonight are the descendants of waves that once touched the shores of Gondwana, Pangaea, Atlantis, names we gave to land, long vanished. Water remembers the shapes of lost continents, even when we do not. The sound of the surf is the sound of change itself, ceaseless, patient, and eternal. And there is music in it. The frequency of breaking waves often matches the key of D-flat, the same tone that composers have used for centuries to express melancholy and peace. Perhaps it is coincidence, or perhaps the sea tuned us long ago. Every time a wave collapses, its bubbles trap air that bursts as tiny bells, producing what scientists call sea foam acoustics. Together, millions of these miniature tones merge into the familiar hush, the ocean's lullaby. Waves also write in patterns we can't see. They sculpt the seafloor, move mountains of sand, and carve symbols on the coastlines that last for millennia. From above, their trails resemble fingerprints unique to each moment, never repeating exactly. It is as if the ocean signs its name across the earth, over and over, with every tide. To sailors, the language of waves was once survival. They learned to read its grammar, the curl of a swell, the color of a crest, the rhythm of foam, to tell when storms were coming. To surfers, it's dance. To poets, it's prayer. But to the sea, it's simply how it breathes. If you listen closely, you may notice that no two waves sound alike. Some murmur like whispers, others thunder like drums, and yet they never clash. The chaos resolves itself into harmony, just as thoughts do when you finally fall asleep. Maybe that's why the ocean is the best storyteller. It never stops speaking, but it never repeats itself. Every crash on the shore is a new beginning, every retreat a gentle goodbye. So when you hear waves tonight, real or imagined, let them speak. Let them tell you that all motion ends in rest, that all chaos becomes calm. Let them remind you that you, too, are made of rhythm, that within you, the tides still turn. No one knows what the ocean dreams about, but if it dreams at all, it must dream of light. For every drop of darkness it holds, there are memories of brightness stored within. Perhaps it dreams of the first sunrise that ever touched its surface, of the warmth that rippled through its skin, of the moment it realized it was alive. When the sea sleeps, the world above still moves. Storms rage, moons rise, but deep below, everything slows. Currents drift like thoughts half remembered. Whales hum in frequencies too low for human ears, songs that might be lullabies for the planet itself. Coral polyps retract and rest. Even the smallest plankton sink into stillness. The ocean breathes in, and the earth exhales peace. Dreams, scientists say, are the mind's way of remembering, sorting, healing. If the ocean dreams, then every wave is a thought, every tide a heartbeat. Perhaps the currents are its neurons, the lightning over its surface, its synapses firing. When you look at the shimmering sea under moonlight, you might be seeing consciousness on a planetary scale, the mind of the world turning softly in its sleep. We know that water responds to vibration, to sound, to movement, so maybe every creature that swims through it becomes part of its dream. The path of a whale, the spiral of a jellyfish, the dart of a fish through coral, each one a brushstroke in the ocean's imagination. The sea dreams in motion, in repetition, in quiet miracles. It dreams of rain returning to its surface, of rivers rejoining their source, of humans standing at the edge, forgetting their noise, remembering their origins. It dreams of harmony, because it has never known division. When lightning strikes the water, for an instant, the entire ocean becomes awake, conducting electricity across thousands of miles, glowing faintly in the storm. Then, as quickly, it drifts back into stillness. That's how dreams work too. Flashes of energy, gone before you can hold them. Sometimes, when the sea sleeps uneasily, we feel it on land storms, tides, restless waves. It dreams too deeply, and its thoughts spill over. The planet adjusts. The balance restores. Like a mind stirring in its sleep, the ocean never truly wakes, never truly rests. It exists in perpetual dreaming. And perhaps, within those dreams, it remembers us not as conquerors or explorers, but as children who once belonged to it. The salt in our tears, the rhythm of our pulse, the water that fills our cells, these are the ocean's way of keeping us close. We are the fragments of its imagination made flesh. When you lie in bed tonight and listen to the faint echo of the sea, whether real or remembered, think of it not as distant, but as dreaming with you. Every wave that rolls beneath the stars carries a part of your breath. Every tide that rises is timed to your heartbeat. The sea doesn't dream alone. It dreams through us. And when morning comes, when light returns and the waves shimmer again, it will begin another dream, a waking dream, this time of flight, of clouds, of rain, of life. Because that's what it does. It creates. It remembers. It dreams. So sleep now, traveler. The ocean dreams with you. Let your thoughts drift like currents, your worries sink like stones, and your mind float in that deep blue silence. Somewhere far below, in the calm heart of the world, the sea is dreaming you back to peace. Every moment, the earth inhales and exhales through its oceans. It's not a metaphor, it's a living rhythm, a slow pulse that moves through currents, winds, and tides. We call it the carbon cycle, the oxygen cycle, the climate system, but really, it's breath. The planet breathes through the sea. Without it, there would be no sky, no clouds, no us. When you stand by the shore, and feel the wind rush against your skin, that air has been born from the water. Waves release it. Plankton feed it. The ocean exhales into the atmosphere, and the world begins again. In every gust, there are traces of ancient tides, whispers from coral reefs, even molecules that once passed through a whale's lungs. Air and water are not opposites. They are partners, trading life back and forth with every heartbeat of the planet. The ocean's breath begins deep below. As currents travel across the world, they absorb heat and gases, carrying them like blood through veins. Warm water rises, cold water sinks. Nutrients from the deep are lifted upward, feeding life near the surface, while oxygen from the surface sinks downward, sustaining creatures in the dark. It is an endless exchange, a kind of planetary respiration that never stops, not for storms, not for seasons, not even for ice ages. Phytoplankton, the tiny drifters that paint the sea green, are the lungs of this living system. Through photosynthesis, they turn sunlight into energy, releasing oxygen as a byproduct. Half the air you breathe right now comes from them. Every exhale, you make returns carbon dioxide to the atmosphere, which the ocean gently gathers back in. The balance between your breath and the sea's breath is exact. You inhale what it gives, and it inhales what you give. You and the ocean are completing each other's sentences. Even the tides are part of this breathing. When the moon pulls at the sea, water rises and falls, mixing oxygen into every layer. It's as if the earth itself sighs with each tide, an inhale drawn across thousands of miles of coastline, an exhale released into clouds that drift toward land. From those clouds comes rain, carrying the ocean's breath back to rivers, forests, and soil. The planet's respiration isn't always peaceful, though. Sometimes it trembles. When volcanoes erupt on the seafloor, they exhale heat and minerals, feeding deep-sea vents where new life begins. When coral reefs bleach and forests burn, the balance shifts, the planet gasps, struggling to find its rhythm again. We notice the signs: the storms growing stronger, the ice melting faster, the warmth spreading quietly. The breath of the world grows uneven, and the ocean, patient as always, tries to steady it. There is a kind of wisdom in that patience. The ocean doesn't resist change, it absorbs it, but even it has limits. When it breathes in too much carbon, its chemistry shifts, the water grows more acidic, its heartbeat falters, shells dissolve, reefs weaken, tiny lives struggle to survive. Yet still, the ocean continues, doing what it has always done, turning chaos into balance, transforming excess into renewal. Scientists call this equilibrium homeostasis, but perhaps it is better understood as kindness. The sea forgives our noise, our waste, our forgetfulness. It takes the carbon we release and hides it away in its depths, locking it into sediment for centuries. It purifies the air, cools the world, gives rain to the deserts. It does what lungs do best: keep life alive without asking for thanks. And still, the sea remembers to exhale beauty. Mist over the morning waves, the taste of salt in a breeze, the gleam of dew on leaves carried inland by the wind. Every small miracle of weather begins as the ocean's breath turning visible for a moment, before returning to invisibility again. If you've ever stood alone at the shore and matched your breathing to the tide, you've felt it. The gentle pull as waves come forward, the release as they return. The pause between them, that pause, is the still point of the Earth's breath, the moment where everything, for an instant, is perfectly balanced. It's the same pause between your own inhale and exhale, the space where calm lives. We forget, sometimes, that breathing is both personal and planetary. The same act that keeps you alive keeps the world alive. The rhythm of your lungs is the rhythm of the ocean, scaled down to the size of a single body. When you breathe deeply, you are not only calming yourself, you are aligning with the oldest rhythm of the planet. At night, when the sea is calm and the air cool, that breath slows. Waves move softly, clouds rest, even the stars seem to pulse with the same invisible rhythm. The world feels like a single, enormous organism, breathing, dreaming, waiting. Maybe that's what peace really is. Not the absence of noise or thought, but the moment when your breath and the planet's breath become one. The moment when the tide inside you matches the tide outside you, and everything, just for a second, feels infinite. So as you listen now, let your breathing follow the sea. Inhale slowly, like a wave rising toward the shore. Exhale gently, like the tide returning home. Let your chest rise and fall with the ocean's rhythm, as if the whole planet were breathing through you. Because it is.